In this section, we'll examine specifically the water balance for the Phoenix area as it pertains to Arizona's complex water system. Again, we frame our thinking about sustainable water as considering the long-term balance between water supply and water demand. When we talk about the water balance for Phoenix, we should look at some specifics of our water supply. Phoenix is in the region of Arizona where water is stored underground in the spaces between the gravel sediments called alluvial aquifers. You can see where our surface waters are, and we have built storage lakes both on the Colorado and Salt River systems and the Gila River. We receive a portion of our Arizona allocation from the Colorado River through the Central Arizona Project Canal. In the Phoenix region, all of us are familiar with the Salt and Verde River system. They are not a part of the Colorado River allocation. They flow all the way down to the Gila River in the south. This water belongs to Arizona and New Mexico, and nobody else has any rights to it. One of the reasons for that is that even before we separated out the Colorado River, we had built dams on the Salt Verde River to deliver for agricultural purposes. Farmers in the valley put up their land as collateral to the federal government to fund the construction of those dams and canals. We said we wanted something as a guarantee that this water can only be allocated to the lands where the farmers put up their land for collateral. In our Phoenix Valley, there are only certain areas where the water from the Salt and Verde River can actually be delivered for use. One of the things you can see on this map is that we can't deliver SRP water to certain areas to the north. We can only deliver it to those cities that you see on the map. When we look at water use for the Phoenix area, recall that in the Central South region, which includes the allocation of water use for Phoenix and Tucson, agriculture represents about 2/3 of our use, and urban or domestic, about 1/3 of the water used. Here in Phoenix Metro, we're more focused on urban or domestic water use because we're one of the biggest urban areas and we don't have as much agriculture in the county. When we look at urban water use, how is that urban water used? If you look at the pie chart in the middle of the page, you can see that multifamily and single-family water use represents 66% of the urban water use for residential purposes. Only about 30% is used for non-residential use, car washes, and similar. Focusing on residential use, the pie chart on the right, about 50% of the water is used indoors and about 50% is used outdoors. This varies considerably depending on the city. We have a significant amount of outdoor water use here in Phoenix, which would include outdoor irrigation, swimming pools, water features, and the like. Indoor water use obviously would be for cooking, bathing, dishwashing, toilets, washing your clothes. If we look at the non-residential sector water use pie chart on the left, green in this figure represents outdoor water use for the commercial sector. This represents the greatest amount of water used in this sector. One of the metrics we can use to think about efficiency of our water use is called gallons per capita per day, or GPCD. It's a simple metric. It's calculated as the total number of gallons consumed within some entity or location, divided by the days in the year, 365, divided by the number of people that are living in that area. When measuring or thinking about GPCD, you would think high is bad and low is good. But this is a more complex metric than that. If you have a very high number, 400 or more, that's pretty inefficient water use. If you think about it, what would you have to do to get it lower? There are things you would have to do to lower the number that might be considered unpleasant. One of the things that we know is that if this metric starts getting really low, it's going to start having a negative impact on the community. It's going to have a negative impact on business, a negative impact on your quality of life. So it can get too low. It's a metric where there's a sweet spot somewhere. There's a point where there's a balance between inefficiency and the things that we want in terms of value of life. Gallons per capita per day has been declining for most cities in the U.S. at a rate of 1% per year for the last 20 years. That means cities are becoming more efficient in their water use. Two key drivers of this improved efficiency are the more efficient federal indoor water fixture standards adopted in the 90s and the personal choices people are making about their landscaping with an increasing preference for low water landscapes. Statewide gallons per capita per day for cities varies from 80 to 900. The current average for the Phoenix region is close to 188. Water use can be broken down into two categories: water used for residential purposes, which includes your house, and water used for non-residential purposes, such as a restaurant. The average gallons per capita per day used in the Phoenix region for residential water use is about 120, and for non-residential water use is about 68. It is estimated that at current rates of water efficiency increases by 2050, the Phoenix region's gallons per capita per day will be close to 118. This figure depicts per capita water use for the Phoenix region. We can compare cities and quickly notice Paradise Valley, which stands out. What is that water used for? It's mostly outdoor irrigation and pools and other outdoor water use. We have some cities with relatively low water use on a per capita basis. Surprise and Buckeye are two. Buckeye has a GPCD of less than 100. One of the things to note in this figure is that Tempe has one of the higher GPCD estimates in this comparison, and you may wonder why. Tempe seems to be a city that's really focused on water use, right? Well, this blue portion is residential and the red portion is non-residential. And you'll notice in Tempe, almost half of its water use is non-residential. When we calculate GPCD for a city, we don't calculate just residential or just non-residential water use. We calculate total water used for the number of people in the city. Tempe has a lot of commercial development and a lot of employment, and thus a lot of non-residential use, which pushes its GPCD a little bit higher. Urban water managers have to manage multiple sources of water, each with its own infrastructure to access the water, such as pumps for groundwater and canals for surface water. They have to treat the water with treatment plants and deliver it in pipes. They have to collect wastewater and treat it in wastewater treatment plants. Urban water managers are managing water supplies and water demand to ensure that there is a balance in their community. In the WaterSim models, users can act as water managers, setting policy to address trade-offs. The efficiency of water use indicators show ideal efficiency in the green range in the middle of the indicator. On the left, there is very high efficiency, but people are giving up a lot of their comfort. On the right, you have low water efficiency, draining your water outputs in order to keep high levels of comfort. The key is finding somewhere in the middle where comfort is not completely sacrificed, but water is also being saved. This can be done by exploring different policy choices in the model.